Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with a Japanese deep dive into the Radiance release of the Tai Katô kind of series that's been kind of going on for a little bit of time now. They've seem to be doing a release one per month, and the latest edition and final one from Radiance so far is the Lonely Yakuza, which is one that I've never heard of before. It's one of the earliest of the chronological of this kind of like timeline of films. The first three have been more kind of more Yakuza, more modern contemporary Yakuza based, going from like, you know, after World War II, then going from like a serial killer film, and then back to kind of like a traditional one with prison kind of, you know, drama. And this one's going back in time to a more of a period kind of piece, more of a traditional kind of Yakuza samurai kind of honor, duty, and telling a much more personal story through this Lonely Yakuza character. Part of the Radiance release, this is a really nice snazzy edition. As usual, I'll just show you there if you're curious. There you go, you get the booklet, disc, over there, and you got the limited edition little spine. And if you change the artwork, little slip there. I just think that's really badass, that's really, really cool. And then that's the original poster as well. So it's up to you in terms of your preference. Lonely Yakuza is a period piece kind of movie, melodrama with some slight bits of action and, you know, heavy kind of dramatized kind of, you know, sequences throughout the film. This film is nice and simple, nice hour and a half, which, you know me guys, a nice hour and a half movie is my sweet spot, especially for these types of films, which all four have been under a 2-hour slot time, which has been great. And the storyline for this film, I'm going to read straight from the box again because it just summarizes it really, really well. The main character of this film is a wandering swordsman who finds himself caring for a family of a man he killed under the orders of a Yakuza boss. But the criminal gang won't stop until the whole family is dead. And essentially that's what the film is. The first half an hour of this film I think is really solid, it's really fantastic. It really introduces the character. He has this kind of lone kind of wolf kind of feel towards. He has this kind of like companion, this farmer who kind of wants to join him on his adventures. He is a non-aggressive kind of samurai, you know, he's someone who is just kind of down on his luck. He kind of wants a family. I think he wants a bit more out of life, and he's just kind of going from place to place. And I like the fact when he goes to these locations, he gets offered board and kind of food and kind of shelter, essentially. Usually expect some sort of favor. There's some sort of hospitality, some sort of like, you know, courtesy, you know, obligation kind of thing of like, hey, we give you place of rest, we give you food, hey, can you do us a favor, you know, obligation of the house, you know, you've done us service, can you return the favor? It's kind of weird kind of obligation kind of thing, which I think is quite interesting. But I like the fact he says to his friend, like, basically they treat them as basically bugs, essentially, as insects. He doesn't really want to fight or really want to be a Yakuza member anymore. Even at the start of the film, when he has this kind of interaction with these kind of like other swordsmen, he basically kind of gives them like a pass, like, hey, look, I don't want to do this. I can kill you very easily, but I do not want to do this. But if you force my hand, I will. And you get a really kind of awesome little mini fight sequence with sprays of blood, very Kill Bill kind of style. Definitely quite violent when the film needs to be violent. And it's really captivating really quickly. You know, you're really invested in this little mini arc story between this kind of lone wolf kind of character, the swordsman and the farmer, and the fact that he kind of inspires to be like him. And, you know, he's constantly telling him, like, just leave, go back home, you know, you don't need me, you don't need to follow me, kind of thing. And I like the fact there's a situation that just happened within this kind of brothel house. All that stuff is quite interesting as well. There's some really kind of unexpected comedy that comes out of it, which I wasn't really expecting. It's really well handled in terms of the timing, and again, cinematography, the look of the film is really impeccable. It's really fantastic and really ahead of its time with its music as well. And you get some really good sequences with the companion character, which has, you know, goes to a brothel, and then things basically escalate out to the local kind of, you know, gang come in, basically take over, and the services of the house of this lone swordsman, and basically saying, kind of do this very sly kind of like, hey, here's a refund, you know, sorry for your, you know, your stay, and hopefully you're, you know, it wasn't too much of a trouble, but we have a situation, wink, wink, can you help us? And he basically refuses. He takes the refund and goes his way, which is very dishonorable. It's very like shocking, and it's interesting how the farmer steps up for that. And this is all within the first half an hour. This is establishing the character that we're kind of introducing for the rest of the film, and what his stance is, and what his resolve is, and how he responds. And escalation just happened. He basically goes on a bloody rampage, and it's a really good, solid first introduction, half an hour of the film that establishes this world, the you know, very much foreshadowing later on who this character is, this Yakuza character is, and what he's all about, essentially. And I really like that. I think it's really interesting. And some time goes past. From that, he cut to a very kind of different point where he's kind of traveling. He's going from place to place. He goes back to his hometown, and he comes across this kind of wandering family, and he kind of befriends the little kid and the wife. And this is where the melodrama stuff comes into it, but it's really well handled. It's really interesting. And being the fact this was based on a true story as well from the extras, which the person who wrote this was changed the story from a Yakuza. Originally, it was a tradesman, this kind of idea of this this traveling kind of like, you know, tradesman who went from place to place, went from work for different factories. Very similar kind of storyline. And basically in that story, he, you know, a friend of his, you know, his husband got killed in an accident, and he basically took the responsibility of looking after his wife and his son. You know, he took upon himself. He had no obligation to do that, but he decided to do that, turn that story, that real life story, into a traditional Yakuza, you know, adventure essentially, and, you know, places within this kind of setting and this time. And being the fact that he's established, you know, his more lighter side, which I think is quite interesting. The fact he does really care. He is very kind of friendly, and he does smile a lot and laughs, and you can tell he just really wants us to settle down. He doesn't really want to do this. And I like the fact there's a character in the film which constantly wants to be Yakuza, wants to get themselves in, and he keeps saying, like, it's not worth it. You know, your soul, you know, your who you are is going to be corrupted by this. And he's kind of just done. He's at the end of his rope. He's, you know, he wants out of this life essentially. And for a series of, again, circumstances, he owes another favor. He has to go and basically go and kill this enemy kind of, you know, Yakuza himself. And there is this kind of honor and respect kind of duty, which I quite like, compared to a lot of the other comrades who are just very disrespectful and just very kind of horrible and willing to kind of gang up. You know, I like this idea of this mutual respect, this kind of last of this organization, the last of this kind of Yakuza kind of, you know, gang. He's the last one left, and he has, funny enough, a wife and a son, which basically has to go into hiding. You know, they have a great confrontation and basically honor respect. Obviously, he's defeated, and his last dying wish for his, you know, his enemy, the person who's killed him, essentially look after my wife and son, make sure they're okay, make sure they get out of Dodge, you know, so they do not need to suffer from, you know, my gang and my activities essentially. And this turns out to be the same people that he's previously interacted with. This changes the scope of the film, and he's going against his own boss, and he's trying to go from place to place and trying to figure out how to help both these two characters, and he gets invested in their lives. And then some unorthodox kind of a love affair that the wife and the mother characters constantly keep saying she's a wicked woman because she is fallen. As mentioned multiple times with this director, the attention to detail is unbelievable. The cinematography is on point, the music is great, performances are excellent. Even though it does have melodrama in the film, it's engaging, it's interesting, and it doesn't take too much of your time because it's an hour and a half piece. It kind of keeps the film going quite well. You've got a collection of really good supporting characters, some really good specific kind of fight sequences with samurai swords. It's bloody as hell, which is great. Some good kind of closing kind of, you know, arcs, which I quite liked as well. And this overall message of, again, as we said multiple times in Yakuza movies, whether it's more contemporary with guns or whether it's with samurai swords, you know, it's never worth it. It's never going in. But it's that constant struggle as we've seen within, like, Seven Samurai, for instance, or many other films. You know, the farmers don't want to work for the rest of their life. They don't want to, you know, cave in their back and, you know, be a slave to other people. They don't have the skill sets. They don't have the resources to have a good life. You know, it's a lot of hard work, but at the same time, it's quiet. So they aspire to be Yakuza. They aspire to be someone higher status and wealth and money and be someone known, and that also comes with its baggage as well, which is why this character is at the end of his rope, where he wants to kind of, he's been through that experience, he's had all this, and now he wants to something a bit simple, which is why his final act in the film, the last scene with him, I think is definitive of what his stance is at that point, which I really appreciate. What are your thoughts and opinions, guys? Please comment down below. What is your favorite film of this director out of the four that I've talked about, or even after this you know, listing? There's a lot of other movies that I've yet still to check out. Hopefully Radiance will have another one up its sleeve, maybe for the end of the year, because they're having a little bit of a break with their October releases. Hopefully maybe November, December, there might be something quite interesting on the horizon. But there is other movies out there with this from this director, which I might try and see if I can track down, if they are available on English funny subtitles, for sure. So what are your thoughts, guys? Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.